What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another MLS prediction video. It's gonna be week 3 already. Some crazy games. Um, I can't wait to talk about it. Austin FC, unbelievable. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started to look at the results for week 2. First up, we had the Rebs versus FC Dallas. I thought that the Rebs would win 2-1. But they actually ended up winning 1-0 with a penalty goal by Gill in the 45th minute. So not too much going on there. So moving on, we've got Toronto FC against New York Red Bull. Now, I thought this was going to be a better game. Thought it was going to be 2-1. Actually ended up being 4-1. The Red Bulls killed it, man. Morgan went off. Lewis Morgan, the Scottish player. And then Aaron Long with a goal in the 42nd minute. I can't believe that the Red Bulls scored all 4 of their goals in the first half. Well, all 5 of the goals were scored in the first half. So, anyway, moving on, we have Sporting Kansas City versus Houston Dynamo. I predicted Kansas City to win 3-0. Actually ended up being 1-0 with a goal by Walter. So moving on from that game, that was a quick game. So next we have the Montreal versus the Union. I thought this was going to be a 1-1 draw there in Montreal, but it ended up being a 2-1 win for the Union. The first goal was by Lapalainen. I terrible with the names. And then Bedoya and Gazdag for Philadelphia Union. So Montreal went up, and then 2-1 answered by New England. I mean, not New England, the Union. Jeez. Next up, we have Earthquake versus Columbus Crew. I was very close in this one. I said 3-2, and ended up being 3-3 draw, which is very surprising because there was a red card in the 33rd minute for the Earthquakes. So Zelleroyan scores, Zardes scores, and then Zelleroyan again scores for Crew. Espinoza scores a goal for Earthquakes in the first night, like in the 9th minute, and then somehow Calvo scores 2 in the 84th and the 96th minute to tie it up, being short-handed. What's going on, Crew? What's going on? So moving on, we got Chicago Fire versus Orlando City. Thought Orlando would go into Chicago and win this game because I feel like Orlando is a better team, but ended up being a 0-0 draw. Again, I would hate to go to a game and it ended up being a 0-0 draw. So then moving on, we have Colorado Rapids against my Atlanta United. Very disappointing night for Atlanta. I thought Atlanta would win 2-1. They got stomped. Did not look very well. They could not stop Rubio. He played a good game. Lewis got the second goal, and then in the 87th, Shauna Askey scores a third goal. I think that's how you say it. Could be wrong. Just did not look like Atlanta. Did not look like an Atlanta team out there. So that was pretty sad on that end. Anyways, we got FC Cincinnati versus DC United. I thought that Cincinnati would get a win at home finally, but no. DC United comes in and says 1-0 instead of 2-1, and it came at the very end of the game. Kamara with a penalty kick in the 98th minute to win the game. Pretty clutch. I mean, I know it's a penalty, but still kind of clutch. I mean, that's a lot of pressure right there at the end of the game. Next up is Minnesota United versus Nashville SC. I thought it would be a 2-2 draw. It ended up being a 1-1 draw. So I still got it right in the sense of it being a draw. With goals from Sapong and Dotson. And so next we have Real Salt Lake versus Seattle Sounders. I thought that this was going to be a draw. Thought it was going to be a 1-1 draw. Seattle is struggling right now. But yeah, they didn't. They come out. Real Salt Lake gets the win at home with good old Bobby Wood scoring in the 46th minute. Now, I always like Bobby Wood. I'm glad to see him still playing. I'm glad that he's still doing things. So, anyways, we got 4 more games to go here to look at. We got Vancouver Whitecaps versus New York City FC. I thought that New York City was going to win this game 3-2. Boy, was I completely wrong in this game. Another 0-0 draw. Not a fan of the 0-0 draws at all. Then we got Charlotte FC. Kudos to them breaking the record for attendance, but man, kind of a letdown when you lose. They lost 1-0 when I thought that they were going to actually win 3-1 against LA. But nope, 1-0. Alvarez in the 77th minute, and he shushed the crowd. Wonderful. I love it. Anyways, next up we have Austin FC versus Inter Miami. I thought it was going to be a 2-0 win for Austin. Ends up being a 5-1 win for Austin. And what is going on? That's back-to-back weeks they've put up 5 goals on teams. Granted, let's talk about the 2 teams that they played against. You got Inter Miami, and then their last game was against, who was it against? FC Cincinnati. So their next week game is going to be a little bit tougher. They're not going to score 5 goals on the next team. So I would say that both of the teams that they have played aren't that great of teams, but still very impressive, scoring 5 goals in a match and doing it 2 weeks in a row. So I did get it right that Austin FC was going to win. So last game of the week was LAFC versus Portland Timbers. I thought LAFC was going to win this game 2-1. It actually ended up being a 1-1 draw. With Chara scoring and Fall scoring in the 90th minute for LA. So it was almost a win for the Timbers. But Fall at the end of the game puts in the 93rd. So that is leading us up to week 3. But before that, we've got to pick our team of the week and the player of the week. Even before that, we're going to, 28 games picked. I've only gotten 10 of them correct as the winners, and perfect games I only have 1, and that came in week 1. So I got to do more of my homework, I guess. But anyway, team of the week for the second week in a row, it has to go to Austin. Whenever you put in 5 goals, it hands down the best. And we have another hat trick for the second week in a row. Used to play for my boys Celtic, so from Scotland, Lewis Morgan. What a performance he had for Red Bulls. Inter Miami was really stupid for letting him go, in my opinion. But anyway, let's get into the predictions here. So we have NYC FC versus Montreal. I think that so these 2 teams have played, what is that, 6, 8, heck, I don't know how many. The wins are New York City FC have won 8, they have drawn 4, and Montreal have only won 2 matchups against NYC FC. And the last time that these 2 teams played was back in July of 2021, and New York City FC won 1-0 at home, and I think that we're going to stay with that 1-0 NYCFC. Man, I can't talk today at all. But I think they get the win 1-0. Next up, we have Columbus Crew against Toronto FC. I do believe the Crew kind of been struggling. Toronto hasn't even won yet. They drew the first game, and they got destroyed by the Red Bulls. In the second game, Columbus put up 4 in the first, 3 in the second. I think that they're going to kind of continue that trend, and I think that they beat Toronto 3-1 in this matchup, getting the win at home at Lower.com Field. Moving on, we have Inter Miami versus LAFC. I know that Inter Miami is going to get a win sooner than later, but I don't think it's going to happen here. I believe that LAFC has a stronger side. Miami is struggling hard right now. Maybe they'll turn it around because they're coming off of a 5-1 loss against Austin, but I just don't think it's going to happen here. I think LAFC wins 1-0. Next up, we have Seattle Sounder versus LA Galaxy. Seattle has not won a game yet. They're 0-2, which is very surprising to me. I don't know what's going on up there, but I think that they will turn it around here and finally get the win at home, and they win 2-0 over the LA Galaxy. Even though LA Galaxy are winning games, they've won both of them that they've played so far, one at home, one away, and both of them have only been a 1-0 win. So I think that they will struggle at the Sounders Stadium, and the Sounders get the win 2-0. Next up, we have Houston Dynamo versus Vancouver Whitecaps. Both teams are struggling. They both have one draw, one loss on the season. Very similar head-to-head turnout here. Houston has won 7 times. Whitecaps have won 8 times, and they've drawn 5. So very similar. But I will have to say that draw goes from 5-6, and it's going to be a 1-1 draw there in PNC Stadium in Houston. So moving on, we have DC United versus Chicago Fire. I think, in my opinion, Chicago Fire are probably going to be one of the worst teams in their table, in their conference. And I don't think that... I know that they have drawn both of their games. DC United have won both of theirs, and I think that at Audi Field, DC United is not going to lose this game. I think they win 2-1 over Chicago. Moving on to the New England Revolution versus Real Salt Lake. Real Salt Lake and Revs are both 1 win, 1 draw on the season. In this matchup, though, the Revs have only won 2 games in this matchup against each other. So it's going to be a tough one for them. They are playing at Gillette Stadium, though, and I think that they will come out on top at home against Real Salt Lake with a 3-1 victory. Now moving on to probably 2 of the worst teams. Well, Orlando City is not, but I'm not a big fan of Orlando City. But FC Cincinnati is probably the worst team in the league, or one of them. They've lost both of their games, whereas Orlando has won 1 and drawn 1. And I don't think it's going to change here for FC Cincinnati. They're going to lose 1-0 against Orlando City at Explora Stadium. Now we move on to the Union versus the Earthquakes. I think this is going to be a good matchup. It's going to be a pretty close one. So close that it's actually going to be a draw, 2-2. Union are struggling. I know that right now they are sitting 6th in the Eastern Conference. They're a good team. They're going to get it together. They're going to be in the one of the top 4, I would say, in my opinion. And but I think that in this game it's going to be a 2-2 draw. Next up, we have FC Dallas versus Nashville SC. Nashville is my second favorite team in MLS. FC Dallas is pretty good, other than they're off to a slow start with 1 draw, 1 loss. And then Nashville has won their first game, tied their second game, and I actually think they are going to tie this game at Toyota Stadium 1-1. I just don't see which one is the stronger side. I think with FC Dallas playing at their home stadium, I think that they will but it levels the playing field, and I think it ends up being a 1-1 draw. Now we have Colorado Rapid versus Kansas City Sporting KC. This is going to be a good game. Colorado Rapids looked really, really good against Atlanta, and being at home against Sporting KC, I think that they do get the win, but it's going to be a close one, 2-1. And then the final game for Saturday ends up being Portland Timbers versus Austin FC. This is Austin's first game away. And Timber are pretty good at home at Providence Park. They have tied both of their games, whereas Austin FC has won both of theirs. I think, and this might be out of the blue, it'd be cool to see Austin continue this run, but I think that the Timbers stop it with a 3-2 win over Austin. I think it has to be a goal-scoring game. I think that it's going to have to be goal-scoring games to beat Austin. They are a very potent team, and they love to score goals. As you can see, 2 games in a row that they've scored 5. Moving on to the games on Sunday, we have New York Red Bull against Minnesota United. Minnesota United have drawn both of their games, whereas New York Red Bull have been kind of quiet, in my opinion. I haven't really seen them in the news and stuff and all the stuff that I read. Kind of quiet with a 3-1 victory and a 4-1 victory. I don't think that's going to happen here. I don't think it's going to be that big of a gap, but I do believe that Red Bull will win at Red Bull Arena 2-1 over Minnesota. And then the final game of the weekend is probably a new rivalry coming out. It is Atlanta United versus Charlotte. They are at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I think it would be really cool if all the Atlanta fans would show up and break the attendance record against Charlotte. Kind of hope that kind of happens, but I highly doubt it. Atlanta United are 1-1, 1 win, 1 loss, where Charlotte has lost both of their games. Atlanta struggled last game. I don't know what happened. I don't know what they tried to change, just struggled. And Charlotte is also struggling. So I think this is going to be a back and forth game, and I actually think, even as an Atlanta United fan, I think this is going to end up in a 1-1 draw to round out the weekend. I would say I think Atlanta gets a late goal to tie it up. They have to play from behind. So that is the Week 3 predictions. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel. Follow me on my socials. They're linked below, my Instagram, Twitter. And comment. Tell me what your thoughts are on the week, and let me know. And we'll see you next week.